Okay. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tiffany Coley, and I am with Triangle Artworks in their Art Swell Programming Development Department. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We are joined today by Aregnaz Mooradian, who is here with she's the district director of the North Carolina District Office of the SBA. And so she's going to do a great presentation today for us about loans and what you need to know about those. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to you. Thank you, Ari.
Thank you, Tiffany. Now let me make sure is my let me see, let me start it from
Mhm.
beginning. Can you see the slideshow, Tiffany?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Tiffany and Cynthia, who's not
Mhm.
on the call today. I understand she's out of the office. And to the
Mhm.
rest of you who joined today, I'm sure we'll have some people trickling in
Mhm.
as the hour progresses, which is absolutely fantastic and not a problem. So again, like Tiffany said, my name is Aregnaz Mooradian, or Ari. I'm the Deputy District Director of the North Carolina SBA State Office. So this presentation will cover loans. It will also cover some of our other programs and services. And I'll tell you a little bit more about who SBA is as well. But when we think of um, art, you know, oftentimes there's, I think, a tension sometimes between artists and business because, artists go into what they do for the passion and for um, the talent and the creativity and um, the expression, you know. But then, if you want to make a profit off your art, or if you want to turn it into something that you could essentially live off of, right, then you need to have that business sense as well. So that's the part that kind of pulls people's hairs out sometimes, I think, right? But
Mhm.
I'm hoping what I can do today is kind of just share a little bit of what federal level services um, you can potentially draw upon if you ever need to. So, but before I begin, how many of you, I don't know if there's a hand raise, or if
Mhm.
not, that's fine. How many of you have just already like heard of SBA? Just have heard of SBA? I see like a couple. Is that right, Tiffany? A couple people
Yes.
have heard of SBA.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Mhm.
not a super duper well-versed audience, which is very okay. Most people are not. We like to say we're the best kept secret in the federal government. But so let me go ahead and get started. Let me just jump right on in. And what I'll do is I'll kind of stop throughout the presentation. And if there's any questions, Tiffany can just read them out to me, and then, we can
Mhm.
get through them there. So thanks again for joining. I appreciate you listening in on this conversation, and hopefully you'll learn something new that you already didn't know about how we can help you. So the SBA, let me talk a little bit about the Small Business Administration. We were created in 1953. So we just had our 70th anniversary I think that was in 2023. Yes, 1953 to 2023. We had our 70th anniversary. So we've been around for a while. We are the only agency of the federal government that's completely and fully devoted to small business concerns. And, we don't, admittedly, we can't help with everything. We're not necessarily like a catch-all per se, where you call us and we'll have the answer to any question you may have. But we do, as a federal agency, as funded by taxpayers, we do provide some specific services that you can take advantage of. And like I said, we are the only federal agency that is fully devoted to the small business community. We have 68 district offices throughout the United States and US territories. We have a very strong field presence. We like to, be out there, meet the folks where they are. And so we are one of those agencies that has at least one field office in every state. And while part of our job in the field, which, by the way, we do have a very small but mighty team currently of 4 people in North Carolina. With our small but mighty team, what we do is we do outreach. So while I myself may not be able to directly provide you the services I'm going to be talking about today, I can kind of explain to you how you can still access them. So these are the 4 kind of core areas that SBA provides support: business counseling, SBA guaranteed business loans. So we're talking about business loans versus like mortgage loans, loans for homes and businesses during times of disaster, and federal contracting. We help small businesses get certified to buy and sell their services or goods to the federal government. So I'm going to talk about each of these areas. Okay, so let's start with the counseling. And quite frankly, I think this is, one of the most exciting parts of what SBA does because it's very dynamic. If you need help with your business, if you don't have a business plan and you're looking to write your business plan and you're looking to have somebody kind of poke holes in it or help you flesh out the business plan, SBA Resource Partners can do that. If maybe you're a little more advanced and you've got your business plan, you've got your marketing plan, but you're trying to kind of figure out, how can you supplement or add or provide yourself with a stronger marketing plan, or run the numbers along with that marketing plan to kind of make strategic decisions. SBA Resource Partners can help with that as well. So there's a lot. So this is a service that SBA provides through our resource partner network that just about anybody can take advantage of, and quite frankly, should take advantage of. We've got 4 official resource partners. I'll talk about them in a second. But our resource partner network is over 1,400 partner offices strong nationwide. We don't have 1,400 offices here in North Carolina, but we've got 1,400 offices nationwide. And if you I'm going to share my PowerPoint presentation. Tiffany, do you tend to send out these presentations after the fact, or should I have people, they can just reach out to us directly as well to request the PowerPoint presentation?
If you would like to share it, absolutely, you can send it to me after, and I always do follow-up emails with registrants anyway. So if you
Okay.
want to send it to me, we can do that, and I can make sure everyone that registered will get it.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. I'll
Mhm.
do that. So basically,
Yeah.
point being is you'll have the link, this link that's at the bottom of the slide, you'll be able to access it because you're going to get the PDF version of this slide deck. So if you go to sba.gov/local assistance, you could learn more about our resource partners, and you can also sign up for assistance through one of those resource partners as well. And again, I'll go into who those resource partners are in a moment. But before I do that, I did also want to cover at the SBA Learning Center. So SBA has an on-demand kind of moduled learning center. So where we cover everything from planning for, to launching, to managing, to marketing and growing your business. So the cool thing about this learning center is that they're really digestible modules. Like you're not going to have 1.5 hour training. They're very kind of digestible bits of information that help you move your business forward. And they're organized as such, and they're on demand. So the nice thing about the fact that they're on demand is you could be, up at 3 in the morning when you're, at your peak productivity, and you could learn something. So, it's your choice how you want to go through these, which ones you want to take. So, I highly recommend, you check out that learning center. And again, that learning center link is on this slide that you'll receive. So, counseling and training resources. So back to our resource partners. But before that, I did want to point out a couple of additional kind of training programs that SBA provides as well. We provide the Ascent and the Rural Ascent program. It used to be a women's online entrepreneurial training program. They have actually expanded it to all businesses. So I'm going to have to update that slide because it's really no longer just focused on women-owned businesses, but it's similar to the Learning Center, except that there's more like interactive opportunities. Like you could write up, you know, you could interact through like short answer write-ups and things like that, as opposed to just sitting there and watching something. And it also kind of follows like a comprehensive progression versus the modules you can just use on demand and listen to on demand whenever you want. And then Empower to Grow is for those small businesses that are interested in selling their goods and services to the federal government. The Empower to Grow is actually, it's a series of online trainings as well that's provided by there are some contractors that SBA has hired to provide these trainings, and they're all government contract focused trainings. So, this may or may not be applicable to you, but, businesses that are looking to kind of joint venture, team, things like that, they learn about those things through the Empower to Grow program. Okay, so let's pick up our resource partner networks again. So like I said, SBA has 4 official formal resource partners. And basically who those people are is those are people that we have those are organizations we have formal relationships with and that we at least partially fund to provide business counseling services to small businesses. And the services through our resource partners are free of charge because guess what? We're all paying for them through our taxpayer funds. So when I say that, SBA, partially funds these resource partners, it's all of us that are partially funding these people, these organizations to provide this counseling service. So there's the Small Business and Technology Development Centers. Those are here in North Carolina. They're aligned with the University of North Carolina system. So there's 14 centers across the state. There's 14 different locations, physical locations that you could actually go to for services where you'll find full-time individuals manning those locations. And they provide, this is a very robust organization. Even though there are only 14 and it seems like there's only 14, they will do virtual as well. So it's not like you have to be really close to one of those 14 centers. But they have specialty areas like federal procurement, international trade, technology, commercialization. They really can help with a wide range of small business needs. Now, there's the SCORE chapters. SCORE is comprised of volunteer mentors. These are people that have, written the checks, they have hired people, they have fired people. They are the former, or in some cases, current executives of their organizations. They also have industry focuses. So these are the people that, if you're looking for kind of industry mentorship, you can get hooked up with a mentor or a volunteer counselor for that type of support with SCORE. Next, there's the Veterans Business Outreach Center, and that is located at Fayetteville State University, FSU. And their primary role, as you can imagine, is to serve the veteran population in North Carolina. There are only 31 Veterans Business Outreach Centers in the United States. So if you do the math, that means not every state has one. So we are and this um, VBOC only serves North Carolina. So we are very fortunate to have a Veterans Business Outreach Center here in North Carolina. They do kind of more module based trainings where they'll do like a series. Um, Most recently, they've got some trainings online. If you go to our website, sba.gov/NC, like North Carolina, there's a calendar of trainings toward the bottom. They're of most recently, they've actually got some really cool trainings that they're doing that you can register for there. And what those trainings cover is they actually cover like taxes and different, what do you need to file your taxes? What taxes do you need to file? It's like a whole tax series, which I think is pretty cool. And quite frankly, when people reach out to our office, oftentimes we get that question about taxes, like, what do I do? Where do I go? Which ones do I file? And they right now have a kind of a series on that. But outside of that, they also provide other types of trainings to veterans, military spouses, members of the National Guard, those service members that are transitioning out of the military as well. So they'll do like classes where they'll kind of cover different core business planning essentials over the course of a couple days to the same audience. And then lastly, with our resource partners, we've got the women's business centers. So we do have 6 women's business centers here in North Carolina, which again, I'm not great with math, but in total, we've got 155 women's business centers. So if you do the math, that average would be about 3 WBCs per state. And then as you can see, we have 6. So we're very well covered in the space of women's business centers as well. And the cool thing about WBCs is that while there are only 6, and these are probably the smallest but mightiest of the teams when it comes to the different resource partners, they've only got, usually 1 to 2 people working out of their office. Um, they really can help with like the startup companies. They can help with like the business planning essentials. And mind you, these are organizations that do not only serve women business owners. I know they're called the Women's Business Centers. That's because they were started under the Women's Business Ownership Act back in the 70s to, fill a need of or a gap of women entrepreneurial support. However, they 100% serve, both men and women. And again, that link that I showed you a few slides ago, the /local assistance link, if you go to that link, you'll be able to find out where all these different locations are for all of these resource partners. Before I move into capital, Tiffany, did we have any questions?
I don't see any questions so far, Ari. Let's see. Does anyone have any questions so far about the information that's been presented so far? If not, we can go ahead and continue. And if something comes up, you can go ahead and put that in the chat and we'll discuss it at the next interval.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yep, that works. All right, so let's move on to capital. Okay, so we talked about counseling. Let's talk a little bit about capital. So SBA has a loan guarantee program. So we ourselves are not the lender. We guarantee loans that our lending partners disperse to borrowers like you. Um, When there's a scenario where perhaps, you've approached a lender, the lender really wants to work with you, but for some reason, you're just a little too risky for their appetite. Like, for example, maybe you don't have the equity injection that they normally require, the percentage equity injection that they normally require. Maybe, you're using your financials and, the cash flow ratios that your financial statements are showing are a little lower than what they're comfortable with. Um, Maybe you're not able to fully collateralize the loan and they need you to be able to fully collateralize the loan. Um, there's a number of different things that could be an impediment to you being approved for a loan. Well, what happens is our lending partners, which, we've got, thousands of lending partners throughout the United States, and that includes those big box lenders that you can just think of off the top of your head, to credit unions, local, state chartered organizations. Um, they, they look at they look at the package that you've submitted, and they've made the determination that, as much as they want to work with you, you're a little too risky. So what they'll do is on the back end, they will communicate with SBA and request a guarantee of that loan. So kind of like in the scenario with like a HUD loan, you don't go to, if you're someone that has a HUD loan, you don't go to HUD for the mortgage loan. You go to the bank for the mortgage loan. The bank decided we want to give this person a mortgage, but maybe they're a little riskier than what we're comfortable with. So we're going to ask HUD to guarantee the loan. In case the loan goes bad, we can recoup a certain percentage of the remaining balance of that loan. That's the same idea, but we do it for business loans. So your relationship essentially is with the lending partner. And then, the SBA guarantee is kind of on the back end. With eligibility requirements, these are just some of the basic eligibility requirements that you will have in order to be able to have an SBA guaranteed loan. You must be a for-profit business. Um, so the business must be officially registered and operating legally in the United States as well. Um, you must have some equity injection. You must be able to show that you have invested, your own time or money into the business. There's no minimum requirement for that as far as SBA goes, but you do have to show that you've made some, you've put some skin in the game for this loan. You have to have a decent credit score. What that means, again, SBA does not have a minimum requirement. I would say lenders generally don't like to go much further below 600-ish, but SBA does not have a minimum requirement. So if that's what's getting in between the lender and you, they may opt to utilize the guarantee, which they would be able to because SBA doesn't have a minimum credit score requirement. Um, and you have to also have exhausted your financing option. So basically, the lender has to determine that you have no available credit elsewhere. So, talking a little bit about the two main types of SBA loan products. These are really like the SBA loan products. There's the 7A loan product. That's your kind of bread and butter, workhorse, whatever you want to call it, loan product. It can be used for a variety of different uses. It can be used for working capital, even commercial real estate, machinery and equipment, refinancing debt. You could even use it to change ownership, to purchase a business, purchase into a business. So, It can be used for a variety of different things. The maximum loan amount is $5 million. The term is up to 10 years, but 25 years for real estate. Me. Community Advantage is kind of it's a subset of the 7A loan program, and it only goes up to 350,000, which is still a lot. But our Community Advantage lenders work in the more, I guess you would call like underserved parts of the state. And this is the list of Community Advantage lenders. So this is the list of, these are certified community development financial institutions, which I'll talk about CDFIs in a little bit, but this is the list of the CDFIs that participate in the Community Advantage loan. And again, like I said, it's like a subset of the 7A loan, so you could still use the proceeds for basically the same thing. But these lenders, they work in primarily underserved areas. And then there's the 504 loan program. So this is more of a capital asset program where you are going to be purchasing machinery and equipment, commercial real estate. This is the loan program for your big capital investments. Many people don't need this kind of loan, but some people might need, to purchase machinery or equipment to support their business venture. The cool thing, so this maximum loan amount is 5 million, 5.5 for certain energy projects. But the cool thing about this loan is that it actually has like 3 different participating entities. You have the third party lender, who is the lender who puts up 50% of the value of that loan. You've got the certified development company, or CDC, who puts up 40% of the value of the loan. They are regulated by SBA. And then you've got the borrower, who always will have only up to a 10% equity injection. So that's the nice thing about this loan, is that your equity injection is limited to 10%. And then the CDC, so the CDC has their interest rates and the third party lender has their interest rates, and they're essentially blended. So oftentimes you will find this loan with sometimes like a very favorable interest rate compared to like what the market rates are out there. Because with these CDCs that are regulated by SBA, they're able to provide very favorable and competitive interest rates. And then there's the microloan program. This isn't necessarily a loan guarantee program. What it is SBA will lend, a fairly large amount of money to an intermediary lender, which those are those community development financial institutions, which by the way are non-depository institutions. You don't have to have a bank account with them to get a loan with them. They can do microloans up to $50,000 with terms up to 6 years. And again, these microloans, they do have higher interest rates because they're kind of geared toward, small loans, which tend to be very labor intensive for the loan amount, but also they're non-depository, and this is not your normal banking relationship. This is if you have a hard time getting a loan with a commercial lender, you can work with a micro lender. And the uses of proceeds also are varied. And then these are the micro lenders in North Carolina. So some of these are also community advantage lenders too. So the process of getting an SBA loan. So you submit your application to the lender, right? And then the lender underwrites that loan request. And then they decide, okay, we want to, we've looked at the package, we've looked at, their capital, credit score, character, the 5 C's, the other 2. And we've determined that we want to work with them, but we need to mitigate our risk. So we're going to then submit an electronic application to SBA to guarantee the loan. SBA then reviews that very brief, short application that they submit, and communicates back to the lender whether or not they will guarantee the loan, and then the lender closes the loan. So SBA guarantees can help you, launch, grow, or repair your business. Um, you can start or purchase a small business using a loan guarantee. You can gain access to revolving credit or working capital. You can purchase, renovate, or expand your facilities. You can purchase inventory. So, I mean, SBA guaranteed loans, like I said, are very um, favorable. So this is just kind of a repeat of what I already said. So I was talking about the community development financial institutions. Those are those mission-driven lenders that provide credit and financial services to underserved markets. The cool thing when you work with a CDFI to get either a community advantage loan or a micro loan, you usually, in most cases, what they do is they pair the loan with technical assistance. So you're going to be getting like some support for either like financial management or business management support along with the loan itself. And when thinking about access to capital, when you think about being pre-venture, often you're self-funding or crowdsourcing for your capital. If you're a new or growing business, you can work with SBA partners or CDFIs, micro lenders, community local banks, those banks that kind of understand the market, understand the nuances, and can, you're not just a number. They understand the context in which you are applying for this loan. Um, those would be the types of, entities or organizations you would more likely rely upon. And then, of course, when you've got a stable business, that's when you've got that sort of conventional commercial loan, to access lines of credit, um, as well as working capital. So, to get connected, one way to get connected to a lender, an SBA lender, is through the lender match system. So, you can click on this link below and you can establish an account. It's really quick. Put in some of your business information, and then that gets shot out to all of the SBA participating lenders. And then within 2 business days, some of them may opt in to have further conversations with you, and then you then opt in reciprocal. And then you can have conversations about potential financing. Before I move on, Tiffany, any questions about access to capital? I'm going to move on to the federal contracting piece.
No, no questions so far.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to federal contracting. So the federal government is, in fact, the world's largest buyer. I don't know if you knew that. Um, Cumulatively, all the federal agencies combined are the world's largest buyer. They have a purchasing power last year of more than $700 billion. And the government buys just about every category of commodity and service, including artwork. Um, Federal agencies are required to establish contracting goals. Um, and so overall, the the law overall is that at least 23% of all government buying must be targeted to small firms. Um, excuse me. And the federal government uses the NAICS codes, North American Industry Classification System codes, to classify industries in which it buys goods and services. So these are the 4 certifications that SBA can help you obtain. Um, so underneath that umbrella of 23%, there are these kind of sub goals. So the 8A certification is for socially and economically disadvantaged small businesses. And that certification um, has a 5% overall goal. So the federal government is required to spend 5% of its contracting dollars on um, socially and economically disadvantaged businesses, including those that are certified as 8A. There's a 3% goal for those that are hub zone certified. So those small businesses that are located in a historically underutilized business zone area. Women-owned small businesses, there's a 5% goal. And veteran-owned small businesses, there's a 5% goal as well. So as of August of last year, the SBA unleashed its new and much approved application platform, certifications.sba.gov. Prior to that application, companies were required, if they wanted to apply for, they were required to register and set up accounts in 4 separate systems to apply to 4 separate certifications. It was just crazy what was being required. So 4 sets of the same documentation, essentially, 4 times answering questions, slightly different questions. Each certification had a different processing time. It was just pretty interesting. But now, as of last year, late last year, they have unified the platform. It's called My SBA Certifications, and it's a one-stop destination, essentially, for all small business certifications. So you can go there, you can prepare for your application. There's checklists there. If you want to know whether or not you're in a hub zone, there's a hub zone map. There's a sample application so you can see kind of what the types of questions are that are asked prior to them being asked. So it's a really cool system. And last but not least, I wanted to talk a little bit about disaster assistance. So SBA, this is the time where we are a direct lender. So like I was saying, with the regular loan guarantee program, we do not lend directly to small businesses or individuals for that matter. But when in times of disaster, we will. When there's a federally declared disaster, SBA will ramp up. So not really the district office folks, because again, we were only 4 people, but they've got a whole cadre of disaster folks that will fly out. So like during Helene, for instance, they set up shop in North Carolina. There were over 30 different locations where you could come to apply for a disaster loan. That number has been reduced since because, the need kind of waxes and wanes. But disaster loans can be for businesses of all sizes, homeowners, renters, and even nonprofit organizations. So it's not just small businesses that can apply for SBA disaster assistance. If you go to sba.gov disaster, you can learn more about the disaster declarations. Helene, there was a disaster declaration. Some of you may have even applied for a disaster loan. Currently, the physical disaster loan timeline has concluded, but you can still apply for economic injury disaster loans if you were impacted by Helene. So the business loans and the economic injury disaster loans can go up to $2 million. Home loans can go up to 500,000. So a lot of people during Helene who were impacted did not have homeowners flood insurance. And so they were able to get home loans to kind of mitigate their losses and rebuild. You can also get a loan for replacing personal property, as well as mitigation for future losses. And then like I said, we're here in North Carolina. So the district office is in Mecklenburg County, but we serve the whole state. We do have someone kind of that serves that southeastern area, Heather Port. So you can reach out to her if you're in that area. But like I said, our district office, which you're going to have the contact information for, does serve the whole state of North Carolina. So you could always reach out to our district office. And these are just some ways to stay in touch with the SBA. We're very, our oops, uh-oh. Our North Carolina office is very active on LinkedIn. So, if there's any one of these you would want to join, you would want to join either the updates, or you could do both, where you receive updates from SBA, but then also, you would want to follow us on LinkedIn. And this is our contact information. So if you've got any questions, comments, concerns, you can please feel free to reach out to us. Um, and this concludes my presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
If you have a question, you can put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand if you, whichever way. Let's see. So we've got just someone here thanking us. Does anyone have any specific questions about any of the sections of the program, the presentation, about the actual loans, or someone said great overview.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't think anyone, if anyone doesn't have any questions, we'll go ahead and move to conclude everything. I just wanted to follow up and let everyone know that once I do receive the slides, I will send that information out to all the registrants. And we will also have this video available. We are recording it, and we will have it available to rewatch if there's some sections that you need to kind of go over again. Maybe you want to actually spend some time and click through the links and dig in and do your research on some of the areas that Ari presented today. In your leisure, you might want to do that. We also have a brief survey that we'd like for you all to fill out. I'm going to pull that up and put that in the link here as well. And then I'll also be sharing that information with you when I actually send the email out as well. Just so you know, it's a brief survey. We always do this with our programming. It helps us to get that feedback for additional programming. Let me see if I can find that.
And as you're looking for it, I do just want to thank you again, Tiffany and
Yes.
Cynthia, for inviting SBA to speak today. And I want to thank all the participants on the call. I do hope you learned even just one nugget of information that could be helpful to you. And please feel free to reach out to us. If you've got any follow-up questions after the fact, and feel free to let us know where you heard about us, so that I could say, oh, okay, that was someone from the Triangle Artworks session, just so that
Yes.
I can make sure to give you the attention you deserve.
Yes, and I will, once the video, someone asked a question about where would the link be posted on the website. So whenever we do a recorded lunch and learn, which is free programming, we will post that on our YouTube channel, which is Artswell TV, and we will share the link for that once it's actually posted. So it usually takes a day or so for us to be able to get that posted. So it should be up by the end of the week. And once that happens, we will send an email out to let you know where that is, along with the slides and any other information we need to share. Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay. Again, thank you all for being here today, and I hope that this information was helpful. It was definitely helpful for me to hear all of this. And take advantage of the information that will be shared after and be able to, to review that and see if any of these topics apply to your business. So thanks again for being with us.